Here in the United States, thieves steal a car every 32 seconds. And if that's not bad enough, vehicle theft is on the rise here in the US and Canada too. I'm not just talking about the average smash and grab from the 1990s. I'm talking about organized crime rings with sophisticated operations. Stuff we might imagine in movies, but it's actually happening on our continent. Today, I'll tell you about the crime network. I'll also tell you which cars are the most and least coveted and targeted by thieves. And believe me, this list might surprise you. Not many people know this, but after the pandemic, car theft in America surged. A large reason was because of the shortage of semiconductors, which slowed down new car production, which led to low inventories of new cars, which then caused the value of used cars to increase. And thieves smelled it from a mile away. They saw the opportunity in nabbing car parts and even entire cars too. And car theft continues to be on the rise right now. Just several weeks ago, authorities intercepted and seized an attempted shipment of 18 stolen vehicles at the Port of Baltimore. The estimated total value is more than $428,000. Some of the stolen vehicles included a 2014 Toyota Camry, Toyota RAV4, 2006 Toyota Matrix, 2022 Land Rover Range Rover Sport, 2021 Jeep Compass, and 2024 BMW X6 to name a few. Believe it or not, the Port of Baltimore is a hot spot for stolen vehicles, and that's because of its shipping route. And right now, one of the places that get stolen automobiles shipped to is West Africa. Let me clarify, I'm not just talking about the average smash and grab. I'm talking about stealing entire cars for good. Now, this new trend of shipping stolen cars offshore isn't isolated to the state. It's even worse in Canada. In fact, car theft over there has gotten so bad it's now even been considered as a national crisis. That's because organized crime networks are involved. Since last year, it's increased 50% in the province of Quebec. The city of Toronto saw a 44.8% increase. Montreal police found 25 large metal shipping containers full of 53 stolen cars at the Port of Montreal. Montreal is a hotspot for shipping stolen cars to foreign markets. Reason is, it's the largest port in eastern Canada. And organized crime rings have perfected their illegal craft down to the T. Here's how the crime usually plays out. First of all, the thieves in Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa are targeting 10 specific cars with push-start ignitions. I'm talking about Lexus RX 350, Honda CR-V, Ford F-150 series, Toyota Highlander, and Honda Civics. There's the spotter, the guy who stays on the lookout near the targeted car. Then there's the nabber who breaks in and plugs a key programmer to the car's OBD port. He clones a blank key fob to match the vehicle. And this can be done in 4 to 13 minutes. He then takes off with the car and parks on a different side of town for 1 to 3 days. Reason is, if the car is a tracker, then it's inevitable that the owner will come and find it. But if the owner doesn't come, then most likely it means the car doesn't have a tracker, in which case the thieves return and transport the stolen car to the port. These containers get shipped to the Port of Montreal, where they're shipped off to Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, and Dubai. Where these cars go after that is unclear, but personally I speculate some of these cars are probably going to countries that don't have access to these brands due to sanctions and so forth. For example, due to the war and subsequent sanctions, large car companies pulled out of Russia and no longer export their cars to Russia. Because of this, car prices have spiked astronomically. Also, prices for car parts have jumped too because the supply for car parts has taken a nosedive. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of these stolen cars get routed up to Russia or other countries, whether through loopholes or outright other illegal ways. But anyway, get this. A thief can easily make over $2,200 for stealing a car off the streets and getting it over to the Port of Montreal. The crime ring that's masterminding this is making huge profits because overseas these cars are worth 2 to 3 times the Canadian value. So if you're planning a road trip to Canada, I suggest you bring your steering wheel, lock and wheel boot, and make sure your car is a tracker, especially if you go to Montreal. Or better yet, just don't take your car. Take a look at what happened to the U.S. couple, Boston, who drove up to Montreal. They stayed at a Renaissance hotel in downtown. Now the hotel had valet parking in a gated parking garage with security cameras and a guard who was present 24/7. Sounds pretty secure, right? Well, come the next morning, they went to pick up their black 2023 Toyota Highlander XLE. Turns out the car was stolen. They filed a report with the Montreal police. Later on, thanks to a tracking device on the radio, the couple was able to locate their Highlander near an apartment parking lot in another part of the city. They called the cops. Good news is they were able to get the car before it was shipped overseas. But the bad news is, as of the last update, the Montreal police are holding onto the car since the case is still under investigation, and the couple's family friend had to drive from Boston to pick them up and take them home. Bureaucracy run wild. But let's come back to the States. Here in the U.S., the car that gets stolen the most often is, believe it or not, the Dodge Charger SRT Hellcat. The Highway Loss Data Institute, or HLDI, compiled a list of the most stolen vehicles in the U.S. for 2020 to 2022 model years. According to the report, theft claims involving the Charger SRT Hellcat model were 60 times more than the average 20 to 22 model year vehicle. Believe it or not, Dodge Charger theft actually dates all the way back to 2011, so this is not a new phenomenon. For Dodge Charger SRT Hellcats of the model years 2020 to 2022, the incidence of whole vehicle theft claims were 25 claims per 1,000 insured vehicle years. These cars are in high demand among thieves because they're high-performance cars and they're in limited supply. Dodge Charger SRT models are powered by supercharged 6.2 Hellcat V8 engines and can churn out over 707 horsepower. And the cherry on the top, Dodge Chargers also happen to share a lot of parts with other cars that are less expensive. So even if a thief was able to steal just the engine of a Dodge Charger, for example, he's already looking at some good dough. 6 thieves broke into a Pulaski County car dealership and drove off with not 1, not 2, but 6 Dodge Challenger Hellcats. Other cars of the 2020 to 2022 model years that were targeted by thieves include vehicles like the Infiniti Q50, Land Rover, Range Rover, and the Kia Sportage. What about the most stolen cars regardless of model year? Well, that'll be the full-size Chevy pickup, which is the most commonly stolen vehicle in the U.S. In 2022 alone, there were 49,903 total thefts of these trucks alone. Interestingly, thieves in California and Texas alone make up 53% of all stolen Chevy pickups. The Chevy Silverado is the 7th most popular car nationwide. That means it's tougher to track down if it's stolen. 2004 Chevy trucks don't have sophisticated anti-theft systems or even modern smart key technology, and that's practically an open invitation to any prospective car thief to steal it. Car thieves generally target cars of the model years between 97 and 2021. Among these cars, vehicles with flaws in their anti-theft systems are targeted the most. Thieves love the Toyota Camry. They also love the 97 Honda Accord, 2000 Honda Civic with no robust anti-theft system, 2013 Hyundai Elantra, Hyundai Sonata, 2001 Honda CR-V with less advanced anti-theft system, Kia Optima, Ford F-Series, and GMC full-size pickup. Here's an interesting fact. Apparently, 6 of the 20 least stolen vehicles in America are full battery electric cars. These 2 cars most targeted by thieves are all-wheel drive versions of the Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y. Also, models manufactured from Volvo like the XC90 SUV recorded low claim frequencies. Not many people know this, but the catalytic converter in your car is in very high demand among thieves. If you live in Houston like I used to, there's a huge theft ring for catalytic converters. And even if you don't live in Houston, you'll want to hear about this because it's happening nationwide. Houston police receive reports of more than 6,000 catalytic converter thefts. Recently, police in Houston did a series of raids and caught thieves hoarding $1 million worth of catalytic converters. The stolen parts were spread across 7 different storage locations in Houston. In one location alone, almost 500 catalytic converters were found. Evidently, the group was shipping out stolen catalytic converters to buyers out of state. We're talking about organized operation here, which police believe handled some $12 million in total theft over some time. And get this, the most common target of the theft is a Toyota Tundra. Now, if you think it's just a bunch of rebellious teenagers, well, you're wrong. Reports confirmed that it was conducted by a well-orchestrated crime organization. Apparently, they used social media to advertise prices for catalytic converters on specific car models. The thieves, or cutters as they're known, would then go under cars, remove the catalytic converters, and then sell them to the organization, sometimes 2 to 10 catalytic converters at a time. This particular case was in Houston, but this is happening nationwide, and the scene is changing for the worse. Police across the state have been seeing a significant increase in the sheer amount of catalytic converter thefts. Back in 2018, there were almost 1,300 reported catalytic converter thefts across the U.S. Fast forward 2 years, and the number of stolen converters exceeded 14,000. Fast forward another year, and just the first 6 months of 2021, the number of reported thefts jumped to 25,969. To understand why, we need to look at catalytic converter and understand why thieves target it. Basically, catalytic converter is a device that's installed in the exhaust system of a car between the engine and the muffler. Its purpose is to help decrease the number of harmful pollutants released into the atmosphere by engine exhaust. It's like a chemical filter. A catalytic converter is made of 3 precious metals: palladium, rhodium, and platinum. These metals help in the reaction to convert nitrogen oxide, hydrocarbons, and carbon monoxide into less harmful nitrogen, water vapor, and carbon dioxide. The converter is close to the car's engine, so it can have the heat it needs for this conversion, and some cars have multiple converters. Since the 1970s, catalytic converters have been commonly used in most cars. Small converters about the size of a loaf of bread. A large converter can be 3 times bigger. These converters are very important, especially if you drive a gas-powered car that needs to pass an emissions inspection. Without a catalytic converter, your vehicle won't pass the test. Anyway, these converters are mounted in the bottom of your car. And that's where the problem starts. They're just too easy to find and steal. An experienced thief can remove a converter with a battery-powered reciprocal saw or a basic tool. They just cut the catalytic converter right off the exhaust line, and they can do this in just minutes. Catalytic converters have become even more valuable on the black market because the rare metals that make them work are soaring in value. Hybrid vehicles contain even newer and more advanced models of catalytic converters. They also don't run as hot as gas-powered vehicles. Hybrids are highly targeted because their converters contain more precious metals. Thieves are more likely to target taller cars like SUVs because they usually have higher ground clearance, which means they're easier to get underneath without having to jack them up. The most expensive catalytic converter on the market is in the Ferrari F430. Actually, the F430 has two catalytic converters. The car has low ground clearance, which makes it harder for thieves. Now, if you have a Toyota Tundra, watch out. Statistics show that the owners of a Toyota Tundra are the most likely to become a victim of catalytic converter theft. So why do thieves especially love the Tundra? Well, for one, each Toyota Tundra has 4 catalytic converters on it, so thieves get 4 for the effort. Also, the factory suspension height in the Tundra is very high. This makes it easier for the cutter to slide under your car and steal it. But if you want to know the biggest reason why Toyota Tundras get their catalytic converters stolen the most compared to other car models, it's known that Toyota uses more precious metals in their catalytic converters than other car brands. If your catalytic converter gets stolen, it can put you out some $1,800 to $3,000 to get it replaced on these. Last year, 26 states, including Ohio, Maine, New Mexico, and Oregon, proposed bills to help curb the theft of these devices. 10 other states passed legislation and strengthened existing laws. Some are looking at legislation that would make it illegal for shops to purchase catalytic converters that aren't already connected to a vehicle. Despite all efforts, it doesn't change the fact that stealing a catalytic converter is very easy to do. Houston is not alone in high theft rates. It's spreading across the nation like a pandemic. Recently, one entrepreneurial thief in Connecticut cut catalytic converters out of 18 school buses in one night. So now that you're aware, you know too that there are some things you can do to make it harder for thieves to steal your catalytic converter. Put simply, you want to make it as hard as possible for a thief to steal it. Thieves are opportunists. If it looks too complicated, a thief will move on to another car that's easier. Here are some practical tips. First off, you can get your catalytic converter etched. Go to most police departments and they'll happily etch your license plate onto your car's catalytic converter for free. Some of the shops will also do it without charge. If a converter can be identified, thieves will have a much harder time trying to sell it. That's why etching your converter with your license plate number in effect makes your converter almost worthless to them. Next up, try to park indoors if possible. Remember that thieves look for easy targets, which are cars that are in front of them. They rarely care to break into garages. Also, look for cameras while parking. Try to choose parking garages and parking lots that have cameras, and try to park in a well-lit area near the cameras. The fact is that a thief will be less likely to steal a converter when they think they're going to be seen on camera. Speaking of cameras, you could also install a dash camera. Many dash cameras have motion sensors and will start recording if anyone or anything comes close to your car. Another option is to install an anti-theft device. Some car shops actually even offer shields that are designed to make a catalytic converter harder to remove. Right now, there aren't any concrete studies available on how well these shields work, but by principle, if the thief sees a shield or cover, they're more likely than not to move on to the next car that doesn't have a shield on it. Now, some people also tell you to paint your converter with identifying information to deter thieves. But if you ask me, that's a lot of work for nothing. Catalytic converters get hot, and I mean really, really hot. All that heat day after day is enough to burn off anything, even high heat paint. So how can you tell if it's stolen? Well, the good thing is you'll definitely know as soon as you start the engine. When your car's catalytic converter has been stolen, your vehicle will make a loud, roaring sound. And as you push the gas pedal, the sound will get even louder. As you change speed, your car also might make a sputtering sound. You'll also notice your car's not driving smoothly. If you notice an increase in the exhaust or exhaust smells, that's another sign of a stolen catalytic converter. What can you do if your catalytic converter is stolen? Well, the average cost to replace it can run up to $3,000. Unless you have a Ferrari F430, in which case you're looking at least $75,40 plus labor to replace both converters. In 2020, car insurance claims for a stolen catalytic converter range from $500 to $3,000, and it's usually covered under the comprehensive portion of your insurance for theft. So you might want to call your insurance provider to confirm your comprehensive coverage. But it's not just catalytic converters that's on the rise. More and more cars in general are being stolen every year. Although, as a side note, did you notice that car thefts get reported within the first 24 hours have a 34% chance of recovery? But let's talk about anti-theft devices. A really good anti-theft device is the parking boot. There are many different types and designs, but basically, it latches onto a wheel and it's hard to remove or break because it's made from heavy gauge steel and can cover the lug nuts. It's better than a kill switch or internal device because it's undeniably visible from the outside, and it really discourages thieves from even trying. Getting a boot for even one of your 4 wheels is already a good start. In some wheel clamps or boots, if a thief tries to drive off, the metal arm will extend from the device to prevent the wheel from moving further. Now, just let me know, this can damage your bodywork in the process. If you're interested in a wheel clamp, but aren't interested in the price or bulkiness, try a wheel clamp that hooks around the wheel and tire in one of the spoke spaces instead, like on a motorcycle. There's also the steering wheel lock. Basically, it's a thick metal rod that locks to the inside of the steering wheel and extends out. Even if a thief is able to start the car, when he tries to rotate the wheel, the rod will encounter an immovable object like the center console, the windshield, or even his own legs. And that's how the steering lock prevents the wheel from turning. Of course, it's sawable, but that's more work for the thief. Most thieves are lazy. They prefer cars without steering locks. That's why a steering lock is another good deterrent. Ever hear of Faraday bags? Well, these are anti-theft devices for sophisticated car thieves out there. Some car thieves have begun to use specialized electronic equipment like a signal amplifier and transmitter to boost and steal your car's fob signal. As soon as they steal the signal, they can unlock all your doors, start the vehicle, and drive away in a matter of minutes or even seconds. That's why it's good to keep a Faraday bag at home when you have both the car and the key nearby. Just keep your key inside the Faraday box, which prevents the signal from getting transmitted and cloned. Now, if you think, oh, this is a whole lot of hassle, well, in a way it is. But look, it's far better than getting your car stolen. Some people who don't want to deal with this kind of hassle prefer to get an electronic immobilizer device instead. Many new cars come with it. Basically, it tells the car not to start unless certain conditions are met. If your car doesn't have one because it's an older model, well, you can go for a battery disconnect or ignition kill switch. Just know that these might require expert installation. But as I mentioned, personally, I feel the parking boot is better because it's a visible deterrent. Plus, nowadays, thieves are getting very tech-savvy. They know how to program and clone your key fob within minutes, even seconds. And they don't like the idea of having to saw off wheel clamps or boots. People will see them doing that will take a reasonable amount of time to saw off. But now you tell me, have you or anyone else become a victim of car theft lately? Do you use any anti-theft devices, and which do you recommend? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.